G-Man Boxing. Do you know what I mean? Every single live he donates. I see him on other lives donating. He's got the bag on it.
Alright, people. Review of the week time. So, a lot to talk about. This could be one where you'll need to probably make a coffee or have a coffee with it, because this could go on for about a half hour. Maybe thereabouts, give or take. Because we've got 3-4 cards. There was a Probellum card on as well last night to talk about, which I did watch. We have a lot of the news. See, obviously I did midweek report when I was away, but I didn't bring this with me. I forgot to bring it. So it meant that I couldn't remember everything that was going on. So I had to just kind of go off the top of my head what was fresh. And in terms of doing other videos, because the Wi-Fi wasn't the greatest, I couldn't really do anything. I couldn't do my prediction for Shields Marshall. I couldn't really do anything because the Wi-Fi wasn't great. Took me a long time to upload midweek report, a long time, and I was like, I ain't doing that for the rest of these. So by the time I get them uploaded, it'd be flipping Saturday. So we'll start off. I think we'll start off with the card that happened in Australia last night. So this was a fight where I had no intention of doing a prediction video on it. I just couldn't have cared less about this fight, which was Devin Haney versus George Kambosos Jr. No disrespect to either guy, but I stayed up all night for the first one, and it was one of those few fights where I've done a live watch along and I had no problem getting to sleep after, because it wasn't great. It was a good boxing display from Devin Haney, don't get me wrong, it was very good, the first fight, but it just didn't catch fire like I think we all thought it would. And when you've seen that once, I had no real expectations for this fight. I really didn't. I felt that Devin Haney would do rinse and repeat, maybe win a few more rounds this time. There's some people would argue that he won nearly every round in the first fight. Well, he won nearly every round in this fight. I did sit through it. First round was alright for Kambosos, as was the last round, but other than that was really it. It was just Devin Haney doing much of the same. And, if anything, just for me, maybe some people will disagree with this, but Kambosos looked, I don't want to say like he didn't care, but he just seemed to be just kind of happy to just go through the motions, let himself get outboxed. Yeah, he tried, but there just didn't seem any urgency. There seemed more urgency in the first fight, and there wasn't that much in the first fight either. There was talk of possible retirement after this. I mean, he's made a decent amount of money in his career. Certainly over the last 2 fights. I mean, that would have really set him up good. But I'd say he made a decent enough amount for the Teofimo Lopez fight. So, is the urgency there for George Kambosos at this stage? Now, a lot was made about Devin Haney and how he looked on the scales. And yeah, he didn't look particularly good, but he seemed okay in there on fight night. Now, sometimes when you see a fighter and they're not looking particularly good on the scales, it might not show up in that necessarily fight, in the fight they're just about to have necessarily. But the longer you leave it and the worse you start looking on the scale, sooner or later one of your performances is going to take an absolute tank. And I don't know, I wonder will he target the Lomachenko fight, Devin Haney? I mean, I think that Loma, he's got a fight coming up in a few weeks, I think the end of this month. And should he win that, I would imagine they'd look to do Haney versus Loma next. And that's a good fight. That's a very good fight. That's a very competitive fight. It's a different style altogether for Devin Haney, because I think that Loma would definitely bring... Well, we need to really see how Loma looks at his next fight. We need to see that, but I don't see it being an easy fight for Devin Haney. Not at all. Not at all. So I think there's fights there for Devin Haney, but the question is, at the end of the day, because obviously he looked fine on fight night, but how much is it really taken out of him? Can his body maybe go through it again? We don't know. So I'll wait and see on that one. Obviously we'll talk about Shields Marshall. Now, I only caught the first few rounds of Shields Marshall. I had to pop out yesterday evening, hence the reason there was no post fight, and it was a sudden kind of pop out. Mate, I need your help. I was like, alright, grand, fine, whatever. So I only caught up on the rest of the fight today, and I gotta say, got this one wrong. I see some people saying that they felt that Marshall won. No, I felt Clarissa Shields won. I felt Clarissa Shields outworked Savannah Marshall. She was comfier in there, and she just did more of what she wanted. The speed. Clarissa Shields really offset Savannah Marshall's rhythm in there, and when she did that, Savannah Marshall was playing catch up, and she never really. She'd have a good round, and then she'd have two mediocre rounds. So Clarissa Shields definitely got the win. The scorecards were, two of them were a little bit close. I thought the 93-97 scorecard was about spot on. That seemed about spot on for that. So there's people saying for a rematch. I mean, I definitely think that if there was a rematch, Savannah Marshall could change things up a bit. I think Savannah Marshall, when I was looking at Savannah Marshall in the first round, I was just thinking to myself, like, I know you like going for knockouts and stuff, but like, if you put her on the end of a jab, she's not really going to have that much to answer to it, because the reach and height is so much. I was like, if you just put her on the end of a really good jab, you're going to cause Clarissa Shields so many problems doing that. But look, we'll wait and see what both fighters do next. And yeah, credit to Clarissa Shields. I was picking Savannah Marshall, so credit to her for getting the win. Definitely fair play. And she done it well. She was in control in this fight. She really was. She was in control. The fight where a lot of people were saying, and it was the fight that really, the more we got to it, the more I was looking forward to, was the Michaela Meyer Elise Baumgardner fight. And personally, I said it in my post fight, I didn't have any problem with the decision. You know, it was a close fight. I really did think at the end a draw would have been a fair result, because Sky were just so biased. It's crazy. And you really do have to question them at this stage, because it just seems like it's always happening with Sky. You could always say, like, maybe with the Zone or maybe with ESPN, the odd time they'd be a little bit too biased towards it. It just seems like every single fight now, Sky, if one fighter is having success, all we hear about is the fighter who's on the receiving end is doing brilliant. And if there's a kind of lull in the action and the other fighter is maybe doing good, do you want to know this fighter's background story? Adam Smith doing his like best documentary impression in the middle of a fight. I thought the commentary, long story short, was piss poor from Sky. I think that Elise Baumgardner did a lot of good work in there and definitely won her fair share of rounds. It's just the fact that the Sky team were just not calling it. And it's just such a bad look. Like, I mean, you're a commentary team. If one fighter is doing something, call it. Don't just wait for the other fighter to do something and then be like, oh, we'll call it now. No, if fighter B is doing good, then just do it. You know, but they seem to always do that. It's not an isolated incident. You know, it really isn't. So, look, Sky have been are what they are. Ain't gonna change. But I think a lot of people watching at home let the commentary team from Sky influence how they seen it. And the general consensus on the comments on my video that I was reading was that, yeah, people were like, yeah, some people were saying, look, I thought Michaela Meyer won, but it wasn't daylight robbery or anything like that. And some people were saying draw. You know, for me, it wasn't a robbery. I've seen robberies, and that wasn't one of them. So Michaela Meyer versus Elise Baumgardner. Elise Baumgardner was saying, no, you're not getting a rematch, so no, we ain't going to see her. I was going to say rematch, but that ain't going to happen. So she's chasing undisputed. And there you go. In terms of the American card, actually, no, before we talk about that, we'll talk about the Probellum card, right? I only seen 2 fights on it. I saw Jazza Dickens. Now, Jazza Dickens won, and I can't believe, just a topic for a second, I can't believe Jazza Dickens is only 31 years old. For some reason, I keep thinking he's pushing 40. And he's only 31 years old. He's been around for a while. I mean, he turned pro. When did he turn pro? 2011. He's been around for a while. He's got some decent enough wins there. I mean, like, he got a win over Lee Wood at the very start of 2020. It was a majority decision. I think Lee Wood at the time was trained by Dave Coldwell. And that win's aged quite well, hasn't it? I mean, you have to say that win, it was a very close fight. Very close fight. I mean, he only won it by a point on 2 of the judges' scorecard. One judge had a draw, so it was very close. But, like, that win has aged pretty damn well. It's aged pretty damn well. And he got the win last night over Lotario Dalamini. I think he's South African. I think he is. Lights Out is his nickname. Close fight. 2 judges had a 5-7. One judge had a 8-4. for a vacant IBO title, for what that's worth. But that was Jazza Dickens. That was on the Probellum card. They showed that on Fight TV, I believe. You also had... I'm watching this kid here, Stephen Kearns. Now, he's only about 20, and his nickname is the Irish Takeover. I find him interesting. You know, he's fighting up at lightweight. He fought this guy last night called Angulo Turso, and I think he showed he's a decent boxer, and he's only 20, but I think he lacks a bit of killer instinct in there. I think the stoppage was there for him, but he's only 4-0. I think he's got 2 knockouts. I'll keep an eye on Stephen Kearns. I have heard stories about him even when he was an amateur, that they had a lot of people would have him up sparring pros in some of the gyms in Ireland. So he's from Cork, so I'll definitely keep an eye on him. Peter McGrail and Joe McGrail, I'm hoping I'm saying their names right, both got wins last night as well. That was the Probellum card in a nutshell. How many more shows do they have before the end of the year? Because Richard Schaefer and Probellum, we don't seem to hear much about them. Okay, they have a show in Sheffield, up in Yorkshire, on November the 11th. And that's going to be headlined by... what's the guy's name? It's going to be headlined by Sonny Edwards versus Felix Alvarado. Okay. Thomas Esbona versus Marcel Brathwaite, I think is how you pronounce that. I've seen him before. I think he fought Sonny Edwards, and he fought Jay Harris as well. He fought them both back to back. Okay. Yeah, so Probellum are still knocking around, but I mean, if you look at the start of this year, like look at March. From March to April, they were putting show on, and then a certain company, you know, I'm talking about, had some issues, and Probellum they've really dropped off since then. In terms of the American show that was on last night, obviously, we'll talk about Wilder Helenius last. All right, because I want to talk a bit about that more. Michael Coffey took another L last night. That's just, the wheels fell off him pretty quick after he lost to... it was Jerry Forrest, wasn't it? He lost to... was it Jerry Forrest? No, Jonathan Rice. I always get mixed up between him and Jerry Forrest. Jonathan Rice beat him twice. And now he's taken another L. I'm not going to pronounce this guy's name. It's a really long name. Goran... I'm going to try. Hovansian? I think I did a pretty decent attempt at that. Me and names, they just don't go, man. But Frank Sanchez got a 9th round TKO over Carlos Negron. Horrible, pointless fight. I just was, when I heard that, I was like, really? Frank Sanchez is a dark horse in my opinion in the heavyweight division. He needs someone better than that. That's his first stoppage in a while. He's been going the distance a lot lately, so it's nice to see him get a stoppage. Gary Antoine Russell took the L last night. He took an L against Emmanuel Rodriguez. Nice to see a technical decision. Nice to see him get a bit of win in, and get some luck in, because he's had some bad luck. He's had some bad luck in fights. Obviously the Inoue fight, he was ironed out. That was vicious. But he's had a bit of bad luck in fights. I mean, this fight obviously was a rematch. It was an accidental clash of heads, literally after only a couple of seconds the first time around. And that was, when was that? That was like last year, wasn't it? It was sometime last year. And you know, he went in there, he got the win, and he won quite well. One judge gave him every round. So, look, Emmanuel Rodriguez could be going down the road of another world title shot. You look at his resume, and you see a loss to Inoue and a win, a very dominant win over Paul Butler, where he didn't lose a round, had Butler down a couple of times. And Paul Butler is now going in to fight Naoya Inoue in December for the undisputed bantamweight title. And no disrespect intended to Paul Butler when I say this, but this may very well be the most one-sided undisputed fight, certainly in the 4-belt era. I can't give him a hope or a prayer of beating Naoya Inoue. Some people would say, probably Ndongo versus Crawford's the most one-sided. At the time, Ndongo was undefeated, and we didn't really know what his level was at. He had a first-round knockout win over Troyanovsky, who was undefeated at the time. He was knocking a lot of people out. There was a lot of hype about that. He did that in Russia. Knocked him out in something like 30, 40 seconds. Bad knockout too. And then he goes and schools Ricky Burns. So, he going into the Terence Crawford fight, he had some good momentum around him. Was I picking him to win? No. But I think a lot of people were saying, look, Ndongo could be gaming this, but Crawford is just better. Well, Crawford wasn't just better, he was leagues and leagues and leagues better than Julius Ndongo. So at the time, with the benefit of hindsight, you could say, okay, yeah, it was never going to be a competitive fight. But at the time, it was seen as, Ndongo was, his performances have been pretty good as of late. Whereas Paul Butler, as I said, common opponent, Manuel Rodriguez, Butler gets battered, and Inoue batters him in 2 rounds. Now Inoue is wearing Reyes gloves now, people. That's scary. That's very, very scary. He is going to beat the living crap out of Paul Butler when they fight. Caleb Plant, lovely left hook knockout over Anthony Durrell. Really, really good. I mean, Caleb Plant, he doesn't really have many highlight reel knockouts like that. And that's his first fight since the Canelo loss. I mean, if we can see this power more, could be interesting. That's Anthony Durrell's 3rd loss now. He lost to Benavidez a few years ago. He only got a win last year. He's been knocked out by Plant now. I'd say that's probably the end for him, if you ask me. Is just being a viable opponent. You never know. He really struggled after the Badou Jack. He never was right after the Badou Jack loss. When he took an L against Badou Jack, that just seemed to be the beginning of the end. Obviously, he got the first round win over Caleb Truax. I think he froze Truax, truth be told, in that fight. But good knockout by Caleb Plant. Very good knockout. There was a lot kind of people saying about his celebration after it. Look, I didn't really pay 2 minds to it. He celebrated. There it is. It's done now. But Caleb Plant moves on. Is he going to do anything at world level at 116? Well, he ain't beating Canelo. We know that. He's already got battered by him. In terms of when the belts get stagnated, look, I'd love to, absolutely would flipping love to see Plant versus Benavidez. I think I know who's going to win that fight. I think Benavidez wins. But I'd still like to see it. If Caleb Plant is hitting a bit harder now, let's see. Let's see what he can do. If he's a bit more aggressive, let's see. And of course, main event, Wilder versus Helenius. I already done a post-fight on it, but I've no problem talking about it again. Deontay Wilder, highlight reel knockout, as you would expect. First highlight reel knockout in nearly 3 years. First win in nearly 3 years. Likelihood is that the WBC will order him versus Ruiz as a final eliminator, probably early next year. Winner will probably face the winner of Fury Usyk or whoever has the belt. They might get elevated, you never know. They might put an interim title on the line, you never know. They wouldn't need to, but you know what the WBC are like. They've done it before. I've no doubt that they'll do it again. Put an interim title or something silly like that on the line as well. But Wilder versus Ruiz is... It's a fight I'd watch. I'd stay up for, yeah. But I'm fairly sure Wilder beats Andy Ruiz. I'm fairly sure he does. Andy Ruiz, he never pushed on from the AJ win. Obviously, we saw what happened in the rematch. He was grossly out of shape. Took a year and a bit off, trained with Eddie Reynoso. Aesthetically looked a bit better in the Areola fight, but in there he struggled a bit. And then he just kind of decided to just break away and do his own thing. And yeah, he beat Luis Ortiz, dropped him a couple of times, but he still went the distance with him. And I really did think he would have had an easier time with Ortiz than he did. I think at this stage, Deontay Wilder takes Andy Ruiz's head clean off. I really do. I think he takes Ruiz's head clean off his shoulders. In terms of some of the other news that's happened, now I might have already touched on some of these in midweek report, but at the time I didn't really have access to anything to really, talk about, if you know what I mean. I had to just go by memory, basically. So Josh Taylor, yes, he has split with Ben Davis. I do remember talking about that. Joe McNally is his new coach. As I said on Thursday, we will see how that goes. At the end of the day, Ben Davison certainly gets a lot of stick. Some of it is brought on by the way he is. Some people don't like him, don't like his character. At the end of the day, I really don't care about his character. I care, do I think he's a good trainer? Yeah, I do think he's a good trainer. Do I think he's got a good boxing brain? Yeah, I definitely do. I think, I talked about Lee Wood earlier, and when he was with Dave Colwell, he was losing to Jazza Dickens. Well, look at him now. And some people could say, yeah, he didn't look good against Conlon. He didn't look good against... I still beat him at the end of the day. Like, Mike Conlon was winning the fight. Yeah, don't get me wrong. Lee Wood was having his moments of success. But I think if that was Lee Wood who fought Jazza Dickens, I mean, he probably would have got stopped by Mick Conlon, truth be told. He had a good win over Can Zhu. So Lee Wood has been improving under Ben Davison. You know, I think Lee McGregor in his last fight, he didn't look particularly good. And there's not really much about Lee McGregor these days. He had a draw in his last fight. Didn't look good, in my opinion. Definitely didn't look good. And was that maybe more down to him underestimating his opponent, as opposed to maybe not doing the necessary training, as opposed to Ben Davison? Because he did look. I remember that fight. It was only February just gone. He looked very good at the start, and then he just seemed to just lose it. Not in terms of, you know, mentally or anything. They just didn't seem to have it in the tank. He was just very sloppy. So maybe it's something like that with Lee Wood. I hope I didn't say, no, not Lee Wood, the other guy. Just said his name now, and that's annoying me now. I just said his name, and I've forgotten it. Lee McGregor. There it is. Came back to me there. Both called Lee, so you can understand it there. But yeah, I think Ben Davison, he gets a lot of flack, especially when a fighter like Josh Taylor has a really bad night like he did against Jack Catterall. Because people just don't like Ben Davison, they don't like his attitude. And people don't like you, they don't like your attitude. When something like that happens, they're going to come at you. You know, people are going to come at you. They're going to come at you saying, you're crap trainer, what are you doing? Fighter shouldn't be with you, blah, 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 blah. And maybe Josh Taylor took all that on board and just said, you know what, I need to change things up. So, I know. Anthony Yarde versus Artur Beterbiev. Potentially being rescheduled for January, lads. Mark the date. January 28th. So, Anthony Yarde is due to have a run out in Telford, apparently, on the 19th of November. Against TB confirmed. I was going to say TBE there, but no, definitely not. To be confirmed. Okay, so he's probably not going to be fighting anybody good. I think that's just fair to say he's not going to be probably fighting anybody good, because if he's got a fight lined up in 2 months' time against Beterbiev, it's not going to be a good opponent. In terms against Yarde Beterbiev, look, I'd be making Beterbiev firm favourite, but there's a part of me, I don't know. There's a little part of me that is maybe doesn't trust Beterbiev to get through a camp, or maybe doesn't trust Beterbiev in the sense of he's been fighting a light heavyweight now for a while. Lest we forget, he was a cruiserweight, a heavyweight as an amateur, which is essentially cruiserweight in the pro. Tunde would say timing is everything. Their timing was wrong against Sergey Kovalev. Potentially, could it be right against? What's the guy's name? It's just my head is just not right with me today. Could it be right against Artur Beterbiev? Could it be potentially right? You never know. I like this fight. Jose Zepeda versus Regis Prograis, November 26th in California. Vacant WBC light welterweight world title. Apparently it's on pay-per-view. I like the fight, but not that much. Jose Zepeda is a great fighter. He's very good. But I've not been happy with the way Regis Prograis been over the last few years. He's not really done much, but I still think he's a tremendous talent. And if he's got anything left, he should be beating Jose Zepeda. Daniel Dubois, Kevin Lerena for November 26th as well, being finalised, or early December. We'll wait and see on that. Again, not the opponent I would have picked for Dubois, but we'll wait and see. Hopefully 2023 we can see him in some bigger fights. Teofimo Lopez, Jose Pedraza, reportedly, I think it's even on BoxRec now, set to meet at 140 pounds December 10th in NYC. Boom. Let's go. Let's see how that goes. Looking forward to that one. Jose Pedraza tends to bring it when the opponent is at that level, and Teofimo Lopez still is a very, very talented fighter. Conor Benn on Instagram the other day. I hope the apology is as loud as the disrespect. And he was quoting Malcolm X as well. At the end of the day, we need to see what he said. What's his reason for that being in a system at the end of the day? Because we haven't heard anything. Eddie Hearn has been the one who's been doing most of the talking. Interestingly enough, Eubank Sr. is protesting that Conor Benn is innocent. I mean, I'll see if I can find the quote here. He said, Conor Benn is innocent. He doesn't know how to cheat. He's a Christian. The people around him, let me put it this way, wouldn't it seem normal to you that if a fighter fails a drug test, if he gets banned, then his entire team should be banned with him? I wonder, does Chris Eubank Sr., sure, would he have known? Is he maybe insinuating that maybe Conor Benn isn't knowingly, And look, we have to wait and see how everything goes. But maybe he's insinuating that the reason Conor Benn had those findings in his tests, failed, is more down to his team as opposed to Conor Benn. And maybe he's insinuating that. I don't know. We shall wait and see. But it's an interesting one from Eubank Senior. It's really interesting. He's been vocal, very, very, very vocal about everything that's been going on with this whole situation. Been very vocal. And the British Boxing Board of Control actually released a statement on this. That they released a statement saying they've now that UKAT have launched an investigation into Conor Benn's positive drugs test. Why has it happened? Look, right? Gareth A. Davis said that UKAT tested Conor Benn once. That's crazy, right? If you failed the VADA, as far as I'm concerned, right? If you're UKAT, right, and you're in contact with VADA, if VADA come and say, we've tested Conor Benn, chucking a date out here, 2nd of September, just chuck that date out, we've got an adverse finding. UKAT should be straight down saying, right, we're testing you too. Instead, they're only launching investigations now. Let's read the statement from Rob Smith. Following the British Boxing Board of Control Limited's decision on October 4, 2022 to prohibit the contest between Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn that was scheduled to take place on October the 8th, the board is aware that it has been widely reported in the press that an A sample provided by Mr. Benn to the Voluntary Anti-Doping Association tested positive for a prohibited substance. UK Anti-Doping UKAT has launched an investigation in relation to Mr. Benn, and the board is in communication with UKAT in relation to the investigation. The board will release further details in relation to this matter and when appropriate. So let's see then. Let's see how that goes. Is there much else to really talk about? Let's have an old look-see. And see what else is going on. Frank Warren has stated that Zach Parker versus John Ryder for the WBO interim title will be made, take place in November. Okay. Let's see how that goes. John Ryder versus Zach Parker. Zach Parker has improved over the last few years, but has he improved enough to beat John Ryder? Although John Ryder's done absolutely zilch since the Danny Jacobs fight. Zilch. So let's see. Otto Valeen revealed that he's been in contact for a potential fight with Anthony Joshua. Dimitri Salida is in contact with Eddie Hearn. Interesting. I think Otto Valeen versus Joshua, I don't mind that fight, to be honest with you. I think that's a fine fight. I'd be well happy with that. I'd be quite impressed, actually, if he takes on Otto Valeen first fight back after the USEC losses. I think Otto Valeen is good enough to pose maybe a risk in terms of boxing, but not in terms of punching power. I don't think Valeen has the power to... Like AJ, does he have a granite chin? No. But is he that chinny that someone like Valeen could lay him out? I don't think so. But you never know. It's heavyweight boxing at the end of the day. Someone's 6'5", 240 pounds, and he hits you flush. He's gonna hurt you. He's gonna hurt you. Even if he's not a no-to punter, you're gonna have problems. So we'll wait and see what happens there. That date is probably going to be December 17th. Look, we're near the end of October now. We're coming into the back end of October anyway. So hopefully we get some good fights announced before the end of the year or early into next year, just to keep the flow going. At least we can have a good end to the year as opposed to the opposite. Some of the stuff this year has not been great. Let's not beat around the bush. It's not been amazing. So hopefully we can have a good end to the year to make up for fights not happening and fights not being announced. I mean, I'm starting to get a bit worried about Spence Crawford, truth be told. Because that just seems to have a week of noise and then just a week of zilch. So hopefully we get that 2023. In terms of everything else, I think that's pretty much it. I think we've kind of touched base on everything. Talked about the shows. Yeah, I think we had a good review of the week. I think I've been going for just over 20 minutes, so we'll call it there. People, as always, I hope you have a great week. I hope we all get some good news this week, myself included. I've had some good news the last 2 weeks, and hopefully this week is more of the same. I've got some stuff on this week, some important stuff. And if this stuff goes well, work related, of course. If this stuff goes well, not YouTube, unfortunately, real life work, I know, but what can you do? But if this goes well, then that's 3 weeks in a row where we've had big news. Outside YouTube, of course. And if it goes well, happy days. If not, it's not the end of the world. I've got other stuff to fall back on. But let's hope this goes well as well. And for everyone else watching, I hope you all have a great week. Hope other people get some good news this week as well, as I always say. And yeah, we set it up for the week. We see how things go. We're getting there, lads. We're getting there. We're into the 500s now until we're at 10k. So we're on target to hit it by Christmas. On target for... That would be a lovely Christmas present, wouldn't it? 10,000 subs on Christmas. I'd like that. I'd like that a lot. I'd like that a lot. And if all goes well this week, and I get what I hope happens, then I might even get another trip in before the end of the year. So watch the space. But now for lads and lassies, I'll leave you with that. I hope you enjoyed the video. Smash the like button if you could. Hit subscribe if you haven't already. For now, lads, I'll talk to you. Might even see about doing a live Monday night. Don't quote me on that. If not Monday, Tuesday or Wednesday, but we'll try and do one of them anyway. But for now, I'll leave you with that. I'll talk to these people. Peace.